Hello everybody, my name is Christopher Dirks and we're going to be talking about People First Language at Hood River Valley High School in Hood River, Oregon. So what is People First Language? In thinking about People First Language and reviewing the materials that we were assigned, the thing that stood out to me the most was this quote. So it says the difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. And this was Mark Twain. And I think that really encapsulates the idea of People First Language because you can feel like you're saying the right thing or try to say the right thing and it can come out really wrong. And I think we all know the difference between lightning and a lightning bug. So more specifically, People First Language puts the person first. So instead of talking about a person as their disability, it's talking about the person as an actual person. And we'll get into some examples of that. But attitudes of others is often the issue. So if how people perceive a disability or how people look at a person with a disability changes based on the appropriate language. And so if we focus on people first language, that helps most people see people as people and not people as their disability. Another way to use people first language is to share what a person needs and not share their disability. So instead of saying, this was an example too, instead of saying my son has Down syndrome, saying my son needs these accommodations or these things accessible to him, because again, back to the attitudes, that can really change a person's attitude about another person. So some examples of the correct and acceptable way to use people first language versus something that really needs work and it needs work now. So saying a person with a disability. So this is a person with a disability, not a disabled person. So that's a great example of just putting the word person before the disability. That's the idea behind it. Another one is a person who is small versus a little person or a dwarf. She uses a wheelchair instead of saying she is wheelchair bound, because that wheelchair bound makes it sound like the disability is dominant, right? This person can't do anything out of a wheelchair. They're stuck to what the wheelchair limits them to do. So that's another example of it. Not necessarily just putting the person first, but the emphasis of that statement is wheelchair bound, not the person. Using the appropriate words for something like a seizure, not calling it a fit or an attack. Both of those sound not like a seizure. Those sound like something that is kind of magnifying the issue. And then the last example there is Phil has autism, not Phil is autistic. That's defining Phil by being autistic, not by being a person with autism. So there's some examples. How language has been used at Hood River Valley High School. So I put the little guy there with maybe the curse word in his bubble because I think there are things that need to be fixed and worked on in a lot of people. Specifically in IEP meetings at my school that I've been in, I feel like our professionals do a really good job of people first language. Saying things like eligible for services, just that professional, the professional sounding of that I think is important. Putting the student's name before like they will be able to. So Johnny will be able to do this in your classroom. But Johnny struggles with, both of those are examples of putting people first, and I feel like our staff does that here. Saying he or she can blank if they need to. That would be like taking a break or some other things that go along with IEPs. The things that I think need work are terms like hyper, spastic, easily distracted. I think using more professional verbiage for those would be important. Same problems as other kids is one that I've heard before. And then saying that he or she knows better, like if they're acting out or whatever the case may be. How language should or could be used at HRVHS, I think there's some things that should be changed and some things that, like I said, I think we do a good job. So using professional words like eligible for services more often. Continuing to put the student's name first before the ideas. Using accommodations as needs, so saying this student needs this versus this student has this problem. using official terms rather than slang. And I put slang just thinking like spastic, hyper. Those are kind of like slang words that go along with a disability. And so using more official terms, I think, would be a good idea. Avoid comparison. So that example where it said has the same issues as other students, I think that puts them a student with a disability in a different category, and I don't think that's the goal, but I think that's how it comes off. And then stay professional at all times, having discussions outside of an official IEP meeting about a student, just focusing on the using professional language, staying away from slang, avoiding comparisons. I think those are all important uh, at all times. So that was my experience with person first language, how I think it's used in our school, how I think we can maybe improve that. And here are my resources. Thank you for your time.